In 1692, fear spread through the small Puritan town of Salem. It began with a few strange behaviors. Several young girls in the community suddenly started screaming, shaking, and collapsing. They claimed invisible forces were attacking them. Soon the girls made a terrifying accusation. They said witches were responsible. At first, the town was confused. But confusion quickly turned into fear. And fear, when it spreads through a community, can become something far more dangerous. The girls began naming people they believed were witches. One of the first accused was Tituba, an enslaved woman living in the household of a local minister. Soon after, 2 other women were accused, but the accusations did not stop there. More names appeared, then more. Neighbors began accusing neighbors, friends accused friends, even children accused adults. What started with a few frightened girls soon became a community-wide panic. People were arrested and placed on trial. And the evidence used in these trials was shocking. Sometimes the only proof was someone saying they had seen a spirit or ghost in a dream. This was called spectral evidence. And incredibly, the courts accepted it. Over time, the situation spiraled out of control. More than 200 people were accused of witchcraft. Men, women, and even children were imprisoned. By the end of the crisis, 20 people had been executed. Most were hanged. One man, Giles Corey, was crushed to death with heavy stones for refusing to enter a plea in court. Imagine living in a town where a single accusation could cost you your life, where defending yourself might make you look guilty, where questioning the accusations could turn suspicion toward you. That was the terrifying atmosphere of Salem in 1692. Centuries later, historians and psychologists looked back at the events and asked a simple question. Were there actually witches in Salem? The answer is clear: there were none. So how did so many people believe it? Psychologists explain this through something called mass hysteria. Mass hysteria occurs when fear spreads through a group of people so intensely that it overwhelms rational thinking. Instead of analyzing facts carefully, people begin reacting emotionally, and when everyone around you believes something is true, it becomes very difficult to challenge it. This is closely connected to another psychological concept known as groupthink. Groupthink happens when people feel pressure to agree with the majority, even if they privately doubt what is happening. In Salem, questioning the accusations was dangerous. Anyone who defended the accused risked becoming the next suspect. So many people stayed silent. Others joined the accusations simply to protect themselves. Fear became contagious. Eventually, some leaders in the colony began to question the trials. The accusations had spread too far. Even respected members of society were being accused. When doubt finally entered the courts, the trials began to collapse. Prisoners were gradually released. Years later, the government admitted the trials had been a terrible mistake. Families of the victims were compensated, and the condemned were officially cleared of wrongdoing. But the damage had already been done. Lives were lost, families were destroyed, and the town of Salem became forever associated with one of history's most famous cases of fear-driven injustice. The Salem witch trials were not just about superstition. They were about human psychology. They show how powerful emotions like fear can override reason. When people feel threatened, they often search for someone to blame. And once a community begins believing a frightening story, stopping it can become incredibly difficult. History has repeated this pattern many times. Rumors become accusations. Accusations become punishment. And the truth is often discovered only after the damage is done. Fear spreads faster than truth. And when fear takes control of a community, even ordinary people can become part of extraordinary injustice. Sometimes the most dangerous force in history is not a witch. It is fear itself.